Buharimeter has officially started. Once you hear the sweeper and then the song, it tells you it's officially time for business. So thank you so much for making it a date to be here today with us on another very promising, interesting edition of Buharimeter. The program is designed and supported by Action Aid. Did I mention that? Action Aid, Center for Democracy and Development, and Osiwa. ActionAid has no business with this program whatsoever. I promise you. Center for Development, Democracy and Development, and Osiwa here. And it's to actually look at the promises, policies, and like you love to say, programs of the government.
Yes, and see how and measure how far the government has come in terms of fulfilling on its campaign promises, not just telling us they'll do this and that, and then they'll get in and then sit down and after 4 years has gone by, they come back and repeat the same promises, campaign promises. So we expect new campaign promises every time the government is coming into power. And that's the work of Buhari to track campaign promises of governments in power.
All right. So let's see what was said in 2012. There was a massive flood situation in Nigeria, destroyed a lot of properties, got a lot of people displaced. I remember Dangote and friends coming up, setting up a committee, seeing how they can get funding and support the homes and the families who were affected by it across quite a number of states. And Nigerians are saying we should be proactive about some of these things, having long-term plans and goals.
Yes.
And well, this year, warnings came pretty early. About flood, about the weather, and about the number of states. As a matter of fact, last week they even increased the number of states that, hey, this state will be on high alert. We have,
we have information that some things
will get to your door.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you look at the headlines, for those who've been following the headlines with some interest, I mean, it just seemed like, flood kills 31 people, destroyed 10,000 houses in Kano State.
That was just 3 hours ago.
Yeah. 2 children, 19 others die in Jigawa flood.
2 days ago.
Flood kills 3, destroyed houses in Abuja.
5 days ago.
Flood kills 6 in Kano, Jigawa.
Last week.
Yes, then Katsina, 44 dead, 500 houses destroyed in Katsina. Abeokuta is not spared. Flood kills 5 persons, destroys property in Abeokuta. It could go on and on about the number of states affected already.
Yes, and it just tells you how much damage to the environment we're experiencing now. And we had to get somebody in and to talk about this, because one of the campaign promises, one of the promises that was embedded in some of the campaign promises of the current administration was to make sure that events like this do not occur again. There were promises by the government to make sure that the infrastructures are put in place that will stop things like flooding, drainages will be done. But we're still seeing all of this after 4 years. So what's the problem? This is despite the fact that the government did sign, took steps. For instance, and they signed this. Help me out there. I'll just read this.
Sign of the Paris Agreement.
Exactly. Yes. And because they signed this, so it shows that, like it or not, they actually have this in mind. So what is wrong, really? What is wrong if the government is actually taking active steps that we can see in terms of signing that bill? But we're not seeing anything practically. Lives are still getting lost.
Modern nature is modern nature. There will always be flooding. I mean, we're just talking about Hurricane Florence.
True.
That's been reduced to a tropical storm. And how it killed people and destroyed properties in its wake. But then you also see that the government anticipated it. They were evacuating people. Yes. They were making provisions for shelters. But then people argue that we're already doing that in Nigeria.
Yes, but that's the thing about Nigeria. See, we're blessed. We don't have some of these disasters like the earthquake recently.
No, don't call it slight tremor.
Slight tremor. And they said, never said, look, we're not in the earthquake zone, so we are fine. So we don't have all of this.
No, we'll be worried all the time. Because of our response to things like that.
All right. We don't have all this. We don't have hurricanes coming in. We don't have hailstorms. We don't have all of these things. But the ones we do have seems to be man-made. I mean, we have problems with a drainage system that causes flood, and these are things that really should not even be an issue. I mean, we have the resources to stop this. What is going on? Why have we not done it? Why hasn't the government been up to speed in terms of securing lives and properties from the likes of flooding and health, environmental accidents.
Indeed, indeed. Well, for all the wide questions, good thing we have a guest with us.
Yes,
Who
good
will
thing.
help us
There's two of us.
wade through these waters that is flooding some state already.
True.
We have the Executive Director of Emergency and Risk Alert Initiative, Mr. Gwenro Olajuibe. You're welcome, sir.
It's a pleasure being with you.
Delighted to have you join us in the studio. So, a lot of states are already getting affected, flooding, destroying properties, killing people, and all of that. And the warning is going to a few more states. Are we really doing the needful as a people, as a country, really?
Well, how a state responds to disaster is the gravest test of our humanity. Well, you are talking of warning. We have been warned. Have we ever listened to one? Secondly, it's not about warning people. It is not what has been on the ground. You make reference to Paris Agreement.
Yeah.
To us, all these are just mere papers. We put our hands there without any commitment to anything. I said this is that why I'm saying this is this. If you look around, you look at disaster across board, whether it's by flood, that is marooning a lot of people in Nigeria, whether it's tectonic displacement that recently happened, which has been explained away without concrete action taken, or even conflict. You find out that we are a country that is living in deception in the sense of appreciating the fact that the strictest responsibility of any government is to remove our own people from arm's length. Whether it's natural, whether it's man-made, it is the state responsibility. It is constitutional, it is law, and it is it is moral, and that is why you have what a concept that we call humanitarian imperative. So it is imperative for state to ensure that that is done. And when that failure emanates, like we often get, we are worried. We are worried in the sense that you don't take action in the midst of disaster. It's not when flood happens that you begin to run around, skaters and every other thing. There are processes, there are procedures, and there are things that should be on the ground. The question that is even germane here is that what are we doing in terms of what preparedness plans do we have on ground before we get to this non-proactive level? After that, what are disaster risk reductions that are being put in place in terms of even capacity for those who are to respond, the responders themselves, capacity for the communities that are likely to be affected? Because these things are predictable. We are not talking of something that is, it happened in 2012, very humongous. People who have, over 300 people were killed in that flood. But from then, have we learned any lesson? You are making reference to government putting in place Dangote committee and all those things to respond. Ad hocism has been part of our problem. Without defining to structure, without recognizing the structure that is that can effectively respond to this type of issue. But likely enough, we can quickly assert that emergency disaster architecture in Nigeria is not only weak, it's extremely ineffective.
Response time, indeed. I mean, if you saw from the building collapse, the response time before the swung into action will tell you that's one area we need to act on also. But sir, you were talking about what we do. We alluded to we even mentioned the Paris Agreement on climate. What's the full whatever for it now? The climate change in 2016 Paris Agreement, and then shortly after that, the president signed the first what is it called, the Green Bond, old title. Yes. You would say, okay, well, it seems on that front we're doing so much tied neatly. But I'm curious now. Like, I'm sure a lot of people want to ask what that bond, that agreement, really translates to at the end.
Yeah, let me quickly say that the Paris Agreement is a good one. It's a global agreement. It's good, but it relates to the West more than us.
Why?
In the sense that we never Of course, they are the greatest. If you are looking at emission of depletion of ozone layer, they are the worst contributors to that, to the depletion of ozone layers. Of course, what some of us should equally be asking for is climate justice. Justice in the sense that we bear most of the brunt of what is coming there. Yeah. Even the entire, of course, for water, this flood we are seeing is the combination of all permutation that contributes to climate change. For example, let me just explain rain formation for you. If the environment you have heat, the first thing is that you have a rising moisture, which eventually leads to formation of cloud. When that happens, you have rain. And this injection has been coming from the west. The injection to the cloud have been coming from the west. And what you inevitably have in Nigeria is that rainfall for some time now has been increasing both in duration in Nigeria and in intensity. And if you critically look at the historical geography of Nigeria, you find out, of course, all of us, particularly those of us in the southern part of Nigeria, they will tell you the rain-bearing wind used to be southwest monsoon wind blowing across the surface of Nigeria, thereby making rain to drop as it progresses to the north. You get it now? Yeah. Because the moisture-laden wind is picked from the Atlantic. It's coming from the Atlantic and leading to formation of clouds. Do you get it now? And then form rain. And in those cases, it was quite correct to say that as you move to the interior of Nigeria, rain decreases. But it's no longer so. And I've just explained that. But these are the trends that is left for our government to have studied and to have responded appropriately. Rainfall here, you have rivers here. Have you asked yourself, of what value is River Niger to Nigeria? Have we, aside from maybe HEP that we always make reference to, hydroelectric power, using it for hydroelectric power, have we made conscious effort to ensure that this river channel, what do we call that? When you make the channel to be deeper, dredge it well because of the onslaught of flood that you have been witnessing. Have you made effort to say that you do that? And beyond that, who are the people looking at the banks of this river? Extremely vulnerable, poor people. They are poor because they have no choice of land. They can't make choice like ordinary people. But good enough now is affecting the rich too, especially in Lekki area of Lagos and everything, which is good for everybody. Because it's the voice should be louder now, so that we ensure that our government take appropriate action. And I want to tell you, it doesn't matter the feeling of NEMA at national level. It doesn't matter effort that it has put in place. It will be outrightly impossible to address this flood or any other ecological challenge if it's not connected to the same process, the same procedure, the same structure at the state level, at the local government level, even up to community level. That is what is happening. It's not magical what happened in North Carolina. It's not magical. It was a conscious effort, conscious plan by the government to ensure that people are removed from armlands. As of today, we are talking of creating 32 camps for people that they can be evacuated to. Of course, that is at least they have taken a step. Before they will tell people, to evacuate from where to where. America created as of yesterday, 2,078 evacuation points for its people, with resources put in place so that people don't get negatively affected, so that they can resume their normal life. So to us, emergency response, let me tell you why it's not working. The architecture, like I said, is weak. And why it's weak? There are 4 elements that this Paris agreement, because it fed on the previous one that held in 2006. The 4 elements that it tried to, that we should equally imbibe in Nigeria, if we bring it back down to Nigeria, is that one, there must be conscious effort to support humanitarian leadership. What is that? Who takes the lead? At what level of crisis? Who takes the lead? Is it the state? Is it too much for the state? But principally, there must be a strong emergency management body. When I'm talking of strong one, NEMA is one, but it can be strengthened. It can be strengthened. The qualification strong. I'm not going to remove it. So if you say
what do you think NEMA is lacking?
Oh, substantially capacity is there. And that's why I'm saying that leadership feeds on capacity. Leadership feeds on courage. FEPA in America will not wait for the direction of the president. Your own is to, that's why I'm saying this now, so that from there you can, I've just mentioned one. Let me rush them so that you know them. The four that I'm looking at: humanitarian leadership, humanitarian financing. That is emergency. It's not what you negotiate. You don't wish it away. It must happen. So as a definitum, there may be conscious effort to put finance in place to assuage it. Not only to reduce the risk alone, but even when that happens, to respond appropriately. We don't have appropriate response in Nigeria. We don't have timely response. Timely finance, humanitarian financing is not just about money. What does that do? It enables you. For example, just imagine yourself. Yesterday, last week, the president was releasing 3 billion for response to those that are affected by in the midst of the crisis. Is that what should be? That's not the ideal humanitarian financing. This means that there should be conscious effort to put in place consolidated funds.
Ecological fund. Where does it fit in all of this?
I would say where it fits in, but just let me just tell you that contingency fund should be there. A consolidated fund should be there. So they just draw. They don't need to. What the president needs in times like this is report. If there is need for further mobilization of resources, that can be taken up. You are talking of ecological funds. Ecological funds is ab initio not meant to respond to people affected by flood. Go and give them food. Go and give them. But that's what we are using it. That's what we don't know more than that. And what is meant for? Principally is for disaster risk reduction activities. What does I mean? What do I mean by this? Look at it. Over the years, tens of years, hundreds of years, they have been talking of gully erosion in Anambra State. I'm just isolating that one. Ecological fund is expected to have supported that particular state. This is just a hypothetical thing. Supported that state to carry out the geological survey of that place, isolate issues that contribute to the gully erosion in that state. It could be issue of soil. People could be relocated if it is so terrible that it cannot immediately be addressed and they are exposed to danger. Ecological fund is expected to do that. And they must recognize that this state has this peculiar challenge. And that is what it is supposed to be meant for. Not that you just throw them when there is issue and you just release from ecological fund and every other thing. Ecological fund is expected, for example, if Benue have been affected by this thing, ecological fund could mean that, okay, we have seen that these people are liable to flood every year. Okay, this state, what does it cost you to have relief camp? Do you get it? That I can accommodate at least 100,000 citizens, assuming that they are affected. Then you can easily now be talking of mass evacuation of people in terms of disaster. Those are the challenges that ecological funds should be. But you see governors today, it has become their pocket money. So they are scrambling for it, as even if there is no disaster in their country. And that is one of the tragedy of the 2012 election. You find out that all the states, they categorize them into A and B and everything. Some got 500 million, 700 million and everything. and none got into those that are affected by it.
Okay, the 2040.
Yes, I am in the know of it. As a matter of fact, I think I coordinated and led the publication of a policy briefing paper then, which we tag emergency disaster has become management in Nigeria has become accountability free zone, where people don't get accountable for anything. Yes, the money was shared before. But I have one thing: how do you throw money to flood? How do you throw money to disaster? That is not done, because even if you have to support it, even if you have to I've just told you that the most important thing to do is to ensure that you have a formidable, responsive and responsible emergency management body. Where there is no capacity, build the capacity. Where there is no fund, consciously plan for the fund. It is not going to, the fund should be anticipatory. You are anticipating that this thing is going to happen. So there's no, if they don't happen, you roll it over to next year. I bet it has to be in consolidated fund, where NEMA and first line charge, where NEMA will just go and draw from it if there is a problem like that. Not waiting for a president to release 3 billion. Not waiting for the previous government to release 12.8 billion that has gotten swallowed by the same flood that they were purported to be fighting. So these are the challenges. I've just told you of humanitarian leadership, humanitarian financing. Then another one is humanitarian coordination, which NEMA is expected to do. But the question today is that who are they coordinating? The states are not responsible enough to put a state agency together. I'm saying this with all responsibility because at least I've supported about 12 states, SEMAs, even to the extent of putting in place disaster budgeting. But when they do it, all they do is to just use it to get money from the state approved by their state assembly. But that money, some of them don't even go to SEMA. It turns out all of them are subjected what ordinarily should be a professional structure to political subdue it to political exigencies. Most of them they are not independent. They are under the control, often under the control of the deputy governor, who often the deputy governor will appoint somebody that has never even heard of. I was in a state, the secretary of that SEMA. I don't want to mention the name of the state now. Secretary of the SEMA. Because I asked question, I was doing disaster mapping across the country. He said that he was seconded from Ministry of Agriculture. Okay. She has nothing about disaster management, no experience, no capacity, no issue, and every other thing. And he's there because the governor wants him to be there. I'm talking of a state that has even passed into law their own SEMA hat. A state. But I'm tempted to mention it. I don't know why it's operating there now, but I'm talking of Kwara State then. I don't know now. I don't know. We need to make this country work. And if we don't begin to even name and shame, it will be difficult. Because people are being lost, people are being killed, people are dying, and they are not coming back to life. And it's the responsibility of all of us to ensure their survival. We failed them. Humanitarian partnership. Partnership at all level, at local level, at these areas that are contiguous to where rivers, in case of flood, where you are likely to have this thing, including civil society organizations, including donors and every other thing. Emergency management body must be able to leverage resources across board, whether internally or externally and every other thing. But the problem with government is not declaring that they have humanitarian challenges. That is weighing on your economy, and that it's not a problem when you have challenges and it's overwhelming. There is need for you to call for help, even at individual level. Imagine that what happened in this thing is where you have tremor.
Okay, Papi.
Assuming that it's a very huge earthquake that you have and everything. You don't have experience of it before. So there's need for humanitarian partnership, even at international level. That's why I'm saying that we always sleep on our duty. For example, that thing has happened, and you have somebody saying that a particular person who should know how it's inside, he said that Nigeria is not on that plate. Which plate? The plate has been shifting.
Yes.
You get it now?
Yes.
Tectonic displacement happened, and as a matter of fact, that is the creator of Atlantic oceans and all other oceans. Because there was a time the world was together as a supercontinent, as a super world, which you call Gondwana land. It was this tectonic displacement that happened that began to shift the place. In between those gulf created is where the melting waters, melting ice, dissolved into water and created oceans and Atlantic Ocean. So man have influenced the earth crust. We continue to violate the everything on earth, whether environment, whether the one on here, whether the one in the land. Mining is going on and every other thing. You are talking of tectonic displacement. A serious government will know that this is an opportunity for us to actually address this. It's not the first. It's not that. How do you say, when you say people should not panic, there must be things you have put in place. It is not by mouth. They must see it. It's a conscious science. All these things let me give you an example. No earthquake in Japan is like you drinking water. You get it? It happens. They record over 1,000 earthquakes in a year. Do you get it now? But this is our problem, and we've got to manage it. The recent one is the bed. Maybe some of us have seen the bed, the picture. Even if you sleep on the bed, if there is an earthquake, it triggers the bed to close on you. And what you can breathe, you can do whatever you want there and every other thing. That is planning. Wouldn't you like to be a citizen of that country? It's a citizen that is a country that cares. And I'm saying this because Nigerians care for their country. But we are being wearied out of nationalism. We are being wearied out of patriotism because of the attitude of government. As a matter of fact, that's what prompted Emergency and Risk Alert recently to publish a policy briefing paper that we tag humanitarian imperative. People are not object of charity; they are subject of rights. Maybe I will send it to you. Do you get it now? And the moment I've told us, the truth is, whether you have a state, whether you have a country, whether you are a citizen, is how they stand when you are in distress. Then you think it's ordinary when Americans say that, my country first and every other thing. Because their country is always there for them. And that is what experience we need to be sharing. People need to know. And one thing, early warning signs. We must continue to build early warning systems, even at community. What is early warning system? It's this system where you gather information. And that information you gather is in respect of the fact that a particular harm is likely to happen. You have identified those at harm length, those who are exposed to such danger, and those who have responsibility to respond. These two people must get information on the danger. The information should not be keep calm. How do they say it? Don't worry. Do you get it now? The information is that this thing will happen. You know, one of the things is that we emotionalized problem. When we do that, we feel that it's just like somebody that is seriously sick. You are telling him, I'm with you, don't worry, and everything. You refuse to take him to hospital. Do you get it now? You must tell him that you have this problem. And if you don't do, this is the repercussion. And that is the difference between others and us. The people at arm's length, they don't know. For example, if people are at the bank of a river, early warning system is not a rocket science. You can tell them, if the rain refuses to stop after 4 hours, your life is in danger. It's as simple as that. The language they understand, you communicate. in the language. Disaster communication is in accordance with the people you are dealing with. Now you tell them, in fact, to some people, you can even, if they can't go to the bank of the river, you tell them that before this, you can't just tell them. It's based on your preparedness plan. During when you are developing a preparedness plan, it's when there is no problem. You have developed it, you have known their sea level, water level, even their well. You know how the well you used to. Now you can say that when you now, before you are using 10 feet rope to draw your water, but now you can easily use your hand. You will tell them that you have to, yes, inform us so that we can evacuate you. Do you get it now? You can see there is the communication is dual. Those that are exposed to danger and you that have responsibility for that. But do we have that in place? We are looking for to respond to emergency, and a lot of money sink with water.
Like 2012, you mentioned 2.6 trillion. How much we have?
Dangote, I told us Dangote raised some. I don't know. Accountability is shrouded in mystery. Nigerian government under the president released, I think, 16 billion. That's
the previous administration.
Yes, not this administration. 2012, the administration is clear, so it's not this one. Release that. My challenge, I said it, that the states were categorized into three. A, B, C. Some got 300, some million, some got this. Even those that are not affected got something. For what? It shouldn't be that. It's not a national cake. What should have happened is that you develop an accountability framework. You get it now. You don't even need to announce that you are giving you 5 million for what? To do what? You are affected by disaster. This is the disruption that have taken place. This is what it has caused, and we need to respond to this and put it in budget and submit. Okay. And then you'll be able to track the usage and everything.
Well, now that the government is, they are floating, they floated this green bond thing. What this green bond bill? How do you think we can move up from there into more on the ground, if you will, planning? At least we can see that if at the high level, like you said, the paper pushing level, some things have been done. But what can we do in terms of practical implementation of this plan?
Yeah, I have told us. You see, they say all politics is local. Okay. All tragedies are local. Yes. All environmental challenges, disaster, they are local. They affect people on the ground and at a specific area. You can't flow anybody. You can't achieve anything if you don't have a complete disaster map of your country. Okay. These are the people, and these are the repercussions, consequences of this flood. It's spiral. It's just like flood. Little you see the flood. Later you will see the cholera. Later, because you are seeing floating body across the board and every other thing. Later, you will see farmers whose crop has been destroyed, livelihood disrupted. Do you get it now? This can now be accommodated within your response plan. If that is after you have taken conscious effort to have that preparedness plan, contingency plan, and at the same time carry out, you don't stop there. Because you have identified disasters, then you now carry out disaster risk reduction activities. I'm telling you what should be in place before you even talk of money and resourcing them. Now you train people. For example, imagine if you have trained people that, in some cases, that is why, when we are talking, I think when we are coming, governor will say that if they explode in their country and their state, they have only one thing: demolition. Some houses are blocking waterway. In period of climate change, which house is not on a waterway? That is the question you should ask. So it's highly unintelligent. It's intelligence that drive disaster management or any response in terms of disaster. So you plan this, you now begin to fund them. I don't care where you get emergency fund. For me, that one you can borrow. I'm against borrowing. I'm against that one. I'm critically against it. China and everything. But because people need to be alive, because people need to be responded to, you must mobilize funds from other areas. So you are not in it. It's a common challenge to humanity when tragedy befalls a state. But then you must not throw your hands on your side when you have disaster. And you will only be able to do that if you have carried out diligently the four ways we have highlighted, which actually connect. Of course, when you are talking of climate change, our own concern is adaptation. Do you get it now?
Yeah.
The challenge of the West could be reduction, emission. How do we reduce carbon? You get it now? Our own is adaptation.